Since Jujutsu Kaisen has started, its version of Japan has progressively fallen into a worse and worse state as Kenjaku and Sukuna have enacted their respective plans and battled Jujutsu sorcerers. So what if a certain detective with plans to defeat literally everything has been watching the activities of curse users, and since the appearance of the disaster curses and reappearance of Ryoma and Sukuna, has decided to take matters into his own hands to take them down? What if Batman decided to take on the world of curses and cursed users? More specifically for this video, could Batman survive and take down the main threats of the Shibuya incident? Let's find out. If you like this kind of stuff, make sure to like and subscribe to support the channel and see more content like this in the future. So, as he's the challenger, let's go over Batman first. The very first thing we need to establish about Bruce Wayne is that he's simply not a normal person, even within the world of DC Comics. Treating him like he's just on the level of real-life athletes or MMA fighters is not only directly stated to not be true in guidebooks, but also just fundamentally ignores everything Bruce Wayne has done and achieved in more than 80 years of comic book history. To begin, even at his weakest lowball, Batman's basic attacks and punches put his strength at wall level. He's consistently punched through, thrown people through, and has himself been yeeted through anything from brick to concrete to even marble walls. If the previous statements weren't enough, this easily shows that he's not a normal guy. His attack potency and power might extend into the building to large building level of power, as he's tanked giant explosions multiple times throughout his history that have required building levels of durability or beyond to withstand. Given how other characters can damage Bruce and he can damage them back, it's likely he can technically hit this hard. When it comes to direct attack potency and destructive capacity though, Batman rarely if ever exceeds this level. This makes sense. He doesn't have any sort of powerful energy system that he can use to blow things up, because at the end of the day, he's just using martial arts. It's consistently shown that normal humans in DC can appear completely identical to others, but through martial arts compete with beings far beyond their level. Batman is no different. There are dozens of examples of this, but I think one of the most consistent is Batman's ability to consistently beat and take down the supervillain known as Solomon Grundy. He's beaten this zombie multiple times in different issue runs across the decades, going anywhere from overpowering him outright to using superior skill and pressure points to take him down. I talked about this a lot in my Goku vs. Batman video, but pretty much all Batman feats of the past should scale to his present day version. However, very recently, all Batman scaling in canonicity issues have somewhat been made irrelevant. Let me explain. You see, at the conclusion of the event Dark Knight's Death Metal, the entire DC multiverse went through another one of its many reboots. This reboot was different from all the others though, as it let the current characters keep their memories of pretty much all past versions of themselves across the multiverse and entire history of DC Comics. Now, while this is not as impactful for someone like, say, Superman, for Batman, it means he now has all the martial arts training, experiences, and abilities of all previous mainline Batman, meaning dividing between post-crisis, pre-crisis, or New 52 doesn't really matter, which makes everyone's life easier. But why does beating Solomon Grundy matter? Well, Grundy has also consistently fought on the level of blatantly superpowered characters. He swapped hands with Kryptonians like Batman, Bizarro, and Power Girl, but also taken on characters on a similar level like Shazam and his family, Alan Scott Green Lantern, and straight up beaten Amazo, who is consistently a threat to the Justice League. Am I implying that Batman is capable of blowing up planets with his attacks? No. Absolutely not. But can he hang in there against characters who potentially could, at least with their attack potency and durability? Absolutely. As for speed, Batman generally scales to the level of any other member of the Bat family, as he's essentially taken them all on at once very recently. This is important as this would scale his speed relative to Cassandra Cain, whose basic training as a child required her to dodge point-blank bullets after they had already been fired, which at bare minimum is a hypersonic feat. Even an injured Batman in disguise and with a broken back is able to move so fast relative to a cricket ball that he's arguably over Mach 50 without even looking. Of course, for a pretty consistent high end, multiple members of the Bat family, including Bruce himself, are able to dodge electricity and lightning-based attacks, which would bump up his speed to massively hypersonic or massively hypersonic plus. There's also numerous instances of Bruce seemingly reacting to lasers or beams of light, which might put his speed at relativistic. Of course, if you believe that DC high tiers are constantly moving at massively faster than light speed while fighting, then Bruce has many instances of reacting to or dodging them that would put the Cape Crusader unquantifiably into that FTL tier. As for his skill, while I also covered a lot of that in my Goku vs. Batman video, the quickest way I can summarize it is that Batman was able to match and even potentially exceed the skill and knowledge of Karate Kid, a martial artist who knew a galaxy's worth of martial arts while also existing in the 30th century. In short, there are almost no characters with more martial arts ability than Batman. The final category is Bruce's technology, which is honestly the most inconsistent thing about him. Sometimes he has incredibly specific tools for the job, and other times he just doesn't. But we'll be giving him the benefit of the doubt that he's bringing the most effective tools to generally handle cursed spirits that exist in his roster of gadgets. With all that being said, could Batman survive Shibuya? For the sake of this video, we'll assume Batman is able to see cursed spirits. Not only does he have enhanced senses like Toji and Maki who can both see curses, but there are instances where humans are capable of seeing them anyways in normal circumstances. Even if he can't see them, Batman is perfectly fine fighting multiple invisible opponents as well as fighting completely blind, so it doesn't much matter if he can or can't for the most part. Immediately though, even as a baseline, every unnamed cursed spirit that's like below grade 2 is getting absolutely throttled by Batman. Every cursed spirit below grade 2 is capable of being taken out with the equivalent of a shotgun blast. Given how Batman can literally no-sell point-blank shotgun blasts, it's safe to say that he can take everything that these cursed spirits can dish out and respond with easily enough force to take them down. Of course, we're not here for those guys, so let's get into the real important fights. Batman versus the disaster curses. And we'll start with the two curses that Batman will probably have the easiest time dealing with: Mahito and Hanami. Both of them should generally be around city block levels of power with their attacks, which put them slightly beyond Batman's normal feats. However, Batman is drastically faster than them. Even Batman's low-end bullet feats put him beyond the Mach 1 to 3 scaling that the disaster curses have. Even ignoring these verbatim statements in the story about awakened Maki and Chozo and using Maki's bullet-catching feat calcs, Batman is still faster by a lot. So how can he hurt Mahito and Hanami if he actually runs into them? For Mahito, believe it or not, Batman has magical gauntlets that will allow him to punch ghosts, meaning he would be able to damage Mahito's soul directly and bypass his regeneration. This also acts as a way for him to essentially bypass the durability of any of the curses he comes across. We've seen how strong the soul split katana is, and Batman essentially has that but for his fists. As for Hanami, aside from the ghost punching gloves, he has various kinds of fire-based explosives, batarangs, and even outright flamethrowers. As we know, Hanami has a direct and specific weakness to fire. If that doesn't work, Batman also has military-grade herbicide for encounters with poison ivy. Batman doesn't have any direct counter for Dagon, but Batman is very used to fighting large groups of enemies at once and has precognition to a degree, so Dagon doesn't exactly have any real way to take Bruce out with his fish domain, especially when he's way slower than Bruce. Given how much faster Batman is, it's unlikely he'd even allow himself to get trapped in the domain and would just pummel Dagon. However, Batman might have his first real difficult match with the final member of the disaster curses, Jogo. Jogo's heat is incredibly dangerous, causing humans to burst into flames and burn away to ash almost instantly. While Batman's suit and cape have numerous instances of heat resistance, it can be overpowered. However, it doesn't seem like Jogo's heat is exactly a passive ability outside of his domain. In the scene at the diner, it does seem like he particularly targets the humans with the heat, or else plenty of other things would have also started burning well before the people did. So the only thing Batman really has to worry about is the domain, but as we've established, it's incredibly hard for him to be caught. But if he does, he likely might be cooked. So while it might take a considerable effort and an entire Arkham Knight level combo to take each of them down, Batman, especially if he's using his anti-spirit gauntlets, should be able to take down the 4 disaster curses with a slight degree of luck regarding domain expansions. But can this be said for the 3 strongest threats of the Shibuya incident, Toji, Mahoraga, and Sukuna? Let's see. Regardless of who wins, Toji versus Batman would be a pretty awesome fight. While Toji would have the advantage in attack potency, Batman would have the advantage in pretty much everything else. The only way they are close is if you take Toji's massively hypersonic scaling based off of the anime, or scaling him to Kashimo. But even then, Batman is infinitely more skilled than him. It would be an insanely close fight, but honestly, I see Batman just downloading Toji's fighting style and absolutely dismantling him with things like pressure points. While a hypothetical prime Toji could get lucky and hit him with the soul-splitting katana, in Shibuya, he doesn't have it and instead has Playful Cloud, which is way worse as a weapon. So there's just so many more ways Batman would win that I find would be far more likely than anything Toji, at least in Shibuya, could pull off. Finally, we reach the big two of the arc, Mahoraga and Sukuna, and unfortunately, Batman is probably cooked. Batman simply does not have the base power required to absolutely one-shot and annihilate Mahoraga. The Divine General could probably just adapt to any gadget he has and would just regenerate from Batman's attacks, which probably wouldn't be able to seriously damage him. I don't know how pressure points would exactly work on a Shikigami. As for Sukuna, while Batman has good reactions and durability, he can't do anything about Sukuna's domain, which would probably just cut him to pieces. Batman has a good speed advantage against everything else, but even at 15 fingers, Sukuna would likely be in that massively hypersonic range, potentially along with Mahoraga. So in a mostly unprepared standard encounter, really only a handful of the most powerful characters in JJK would be able to beat Batman in a mostly random encounter. However, if Batman came and was 100% prepared for war, well, let's just say goodbye to the King of Curses. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. As always, if you disagree with my takes, let me know how I was wrong in the comments down below. See ya!